Luka Doncic is the star of the Dallas Mavericks. But is he good enough to surpass LeBron James's NBA career scoring total? For that, we'll have to look at what the scoring total is first. And guess what? It's more than 38,000. Of course, nothing is set in stone. But no one can argue that unless James decides to quit out of nowhere or something, that record is going to be his. There was a time when people thought that no one would be able to match Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. After all, he was considered to be an all-time legend, one of the greatest players to have ever lived. With a career spanning 20 years and 1,560 games, Kareem has stood at the top of the basketball world for some time now, and it's hard to imagine that someone else may be taking his place. Yes, even if said person is LeBron James. Kareem's current record is 38,387 points, and James only has to make 422 more points to catch up to him, which really isn't a lot if we take his average points per game into account. Seeing that his career average is 27.2, that's less than 20 games. So, now that we know that we will be celebrating a historic moment for the NBA soon, it's time to take a look at the next step, which is surpassing James's record, of course. Kareem has been the NBA's leading scorer for about 34 years now, so it's hard to imagine anyone will break the record again in such a short span of time. But that doesn't mean that we can't look at who the next candidate might be. You guessed it, it's Luka. During an interview with ESPN, James mentioned that one of the players that he thought could potentially pass him was none other than Luka himself. No, he wasn't exactly the first choice. That was Kevin Durant. He mentioned others like Kyrie, Embiid, and Giannis too. But the fact that he even mentioned him makes us wonder whether there is a chance that Luka would achieve the impossible. He's an incredible player. There's no denying that. But is he good enough to become the NBA's leading scorer? To surpass LeBron James? Well, James seems to think so. His words implied that he, at the very least, had the potential. Luka, on the other hand, isn't so sure. He by no means implied that he thought he couldn't do it. Really, he even said that it was a possibility, no matter how tough it would be, to make it a reality. But what he did mention was that when everything is said and done, and the beloved basketball player will walk off the court for the last time, there will be many achievements that he'll be able to call his own. Impressive milestones not many others have surpassed. But holding the record for the most points scored? He just didn't see that one being on the list. Why though? His career average is 27.3 points per game. That's actually more than James. The problem is, he just didn't see himself playing long enough to reach 38,387 or more points. To be honest, you should have seen this one coming, because he's got one major issue with all those expectations. 20 years is a long time for him. Now, it looks like Dirk Nowitzki also has a favorite when it comes to his own record. Everyone knows that young talent quickly replaces older players in the sports scene. This means that Dirk's record for playing for the longest time with one franchise is pretty legendary. Like, he was with the Dallas Mavericks for 21 whole years. That's no joke. Dirk recently mentioned that he'd like Doncic to be the one to break his record. But yet again, the player himself doesn't think it'll happen. And there's no big reason behind it either. It's just that he thinks that playing for over 2 decades is a pretty long time. He mentioned that he wants to go back to his farm in Slovenia instead. Now that's something you don't hear every day. Not a lot of people would think that an NBA favorite was a farm boy at heart. In all fairness, he makes sense. Being a player isn't exactly easy. It's hard maintaining the durability and impact you need to make a splash on the court. And it's impossible to predict your career and physical condition, since injuries run rampant in the NBA. Luka has a good head on his shoulders. His focus is on quality, not quantity. Doncic wants to get titles before he can settle back home, and it looks like he'll do anything to get them. Their Western Conference Finals run is the closest the Mavs have gotten to the title since 2011. But they've got a long way to go. Still, Luka's definitely making progress. In fact, we don't even have to look that far back. After all, he's already made it into the NBA's history books. Yep, it was a good night for the Dallas Mavericks. Luka became the first player in the history of the Dallas franchise to win a game with 60 points. It was the highest single-game score recorded by a Mavericks player. And Luka ended it with a dramatic win against the New York Knicks. Add his 21 rebounds and 10 assists to his 60-point masterpiece, and we see how he is truly one of the rising stars in the league. During the finale, Luka missed a free throw on purpose and collected the rebound. This tied the score at 115 all with just 1 second remaining. Eventually, Dallas won 126-121. After the game, Luka simply said that he was tired as hell. Oh, and his teammates didn't hold back with the celebrations either. They were in awe of his incredible performance. Kevin Garnett, the Dream Team Olympic gold medalist, posted that there'll be another statue in Dallas for Luka. Mavericks teammate Chris Wood tweeted that he'd be sending a goat to his farm. Kevin Durant connected his performance to a video game. He said that it was a My Career type of performance by the Slovenian. It wasn't just the players and fans that Luka had wooed. Mark Cuban, the owner of the Mavericks, also took to Twitter to appreciate his player. He said that they were watching greatness and that he'd never seen anything like that before. He even suggested that Luka's celebration dance deserves a name. Sheesh, now that's a lot of attention on one person. But no one can argue that it isn't well deserved. In fact, there's a very unexpected consequence of all this attention. Yep, the NBA itself has benefited from it. Seriously, the league has broken viewership records on social media, something that has never happened before. A huge factor in achieving this was Luka. During the time between Christmas and New Year, the 23-year-old played the game at an elite level. That, coupled with his recent 60-point game, created a huge buzz on social media. The NBA shattered the record with 1.1 billion views across Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, and many others. Reportedly, the NBA Instagram account had more views than ever. 73 million views on Twitter alone. Can you believe that? The NBA had never seen such high viewership numbers on Twitter before. Naturally, not all of the 1.1 billion views were thanks to Luka. After all, the NBA has many fans, all with their own preferences for teams and players. But Luka brought in 150 million views alone. I mean, that's almost 15% of the total view. And they were all generated by a single player. I think it's safe to say that Luka's star power was in large part responsible for the NBA breaking the viewership record. Here's to hoping that Luka continues to play skillfully and reaches greater heights. If he does, the NBA will definitely benefit in the long run and grow at an international level. Can Luka Doncic catch up to LeBron James' scores? We'll see. But his 60-point game from last year has definitely helped the NBA shatter social media records. See you in the next video.